Welcome to Studio Snack. I'm Lydia Thornley, designer, creative director and sketcher.
And I'm Narcisa Obreda, creative and cheese mancher.
This month's episode came from a conversation with friends while we were snacking on some cheese. And Maisie wondered if cheese cut into cubes tasted better than other shapes of cheese.
That's a good point actually, because once I was talking to an Italian person and told me that Parmesan, you have to eat it by stabbing in the knife into the. It sounds very gore. I know. It's Halloween anyway. Stabbing the knife into the cheese and then you kind of break it into shards, and that's how best tastes.
That sounds like a trip to A&E to me.
But anyway, I think we require some investigation, which I'm assuming, Lydia, you've done some nerdery for us.
Of course, and it turns out that this is in fact a thing. A 2016 academic paper found correlations between round and sweet and angular with salty, there's our cheese cube, bitter or sour. And I found a BBC report that when Cadbury's changed the shape of its chocolate bar from chunks to rounded, customers complained that the chocolate was too sweet, although they hadn't done anything with the formula. And that might not just have been visual. Apparently different shapes melt differently in the mouth, and that could affect flavour. There was another study that looked at how people rated the bitterness of chocolate depending on shape. Milk chocolate ended up at the rounded end, dark chocolate at the sharp end, though I'm not sure how that explains the famous Toblerone triangle. And of course shape finds its way into how wine is described. You get rounded flavours and sharp flavours. But all of this seems to apply only to neurotypical people. A 2021 study argued that fewer autistic people make these connections. And that leads us to packaging design and branding. Narcis, what have you found?
I found an article in the Scientific American which looks at how visual appearance of food plays a role in shaping our taste perceptions, and it's focused on color rather than shape, but it kind of serves the same purpose. And the experiment was quite simple. It was apple juice with food coloring, and reveals that orange colors made the apple juice taste a bit more citrus than the green ones, which made it a little bit more minty.
Oh, that's interesting.
So also the packaging, when Coca-Cola made the white can for a charity campaign, it was assumed that the recipe had changed. And even cutlery, there's been experiments that shows that food tastes a lot sweeter when you eat it in a smaller spoon. White spoons make yogurt taste better, and cheese tastes saltier from the knife.
Maybe don't try that one at home.
Yes.
And Charles Spence, whose work we found out about for our episode on sound, has done some work with a cancer centre in Spain to see if plating and lighting, as well as acoustic tweaks, can offset the metallic taste and nausea that people experience during chemotherapy.
And have you heard about all these restaurants that they use senses as well to create an eating experience? Like Dans Le Noir, it's a quite famous one, which is in a lot of cities where you eat in full darkness. Or in Shanghai, there is a restaurant where they use UV lighting and wall projection that match with a smell and music to create the perfect menu. But brands are very playful too. Less technological, but actually genius. It's the campaign from Del Monte and Cathedral City that worked out with TikTokers to bring back the cheese and pineapple hedgehog.
Ah, classic retro 1970s party snack. It featured in Mike Leigh's wonderful play Abigail's Party.
And of course, that had to be our experiment, so
we thought, what would a studio cheese and pineapple hedgehog look like? Well, because our creator community is full of people from all over the world, we decided to make, small drum roll, an international hedgehog of cheese.
Hey, super good.
This is our international hedgehog of cheese, so we needed a world of grapefruit.
Exactly. And we started cutting all the cheese, and then we ended up mixing it, and we thought, we don't know who's where from and which and next to, which actually made it more interesting, because it makes like a good representation of the ideal wall.
And some cheese, exactly, and some cheese held together surprisingly well. There was the Polish curd cheese, which I thought would fall apart.
Yes.
But was quite robust. And then the feta cheese was the rebellious one.
Yes, because it was holding very well until it decided to explode.
But we thought what was really interesting was once we put it all in the hedgehog, it was all just cheese. And that's quite a nice metaphor for humans, isn't it?
And living together and perfectly in harmony, I think, as well. It was a good experiment, really fun.
It was a good experiment, and it looked great, and it was satisfyingly messy for a Friday morning in the studio. So what have we learned for our design practice, Narcissus?
So I think this experiment and this episode actually remind us ourselves as humans, and possibly most animals, that we interact with all the senses. So when we think about design, we should not only design for visual, but we should design more of an experience. And the other thing I kind of learned is that we started with shapes, and we spoke about shapes in our episode of pretzel, when we said that a pretzel that doesn't look like a pretzel ends up being a bun.
Yeah, we did.
And then biscuits, that they also have like their own shape.
I think, recognition, I think, is a really important thing. So often we somehow feel that it's our duty to reinvent things, where it's important that people can make the connection between one thing and another. And so much of our work is behavioural. It's often not realised that it's not just about the aesthetics of something, it's about what do we want people to do, how do we want people to react. So we've learned quite a lot, haven't we, in this episode, and eaten a lot of cheese.
No, there's not such a thing as a lot of cheese.
Join us next month for another studio snack.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheese?
Cheese, please.